Check, 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 check. I don't hear it. Hey, hey.
To our regular school board meeting for Independent School District 833. It is Thursday, February 21st, and we are at the District Service Center in Cottage Grove, Minnesota. 1.0 roll call.
Pat Driscoll, Heather Hirsch, Michelle Whitty, Katie Schwartz, Sharon Van Leer, Ron Kath, Tracy Brunnette, Hannah Poore, Maya Mira, Lindsay Strom is absent.
And we just wanted to say welcome to Maya and thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to hear your perspective and some insights into what's happening in Woodbury. So thank you for joining us. 2.0, if you could please stand and join me for a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 3.0 is the approval of our agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
So moved by Sharon, second by Katie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 4.0 are district highlights, and tonight we have the Eastridge High School Orchestra Chamber Ensemble, and their director is Kelly DeMorett. DeMorett? Okay. Welcome. We're excited.
Hi everyone. We're the Eastridge Chamber Orchestra, and we will be playing the first three movements of Over Sweet by Edvard.
I'm Haley. I'm a senior, and I also play the violin.
I'm Elizabeth. I'm a junior, and I play the viola.
I'm Lucia. I'm a junior, and I play the viola.
I'm Kevin. I am a senior, and I play the cello.
I'm Jeffrey. I'm a senior, and I play the cello.
I'm Luke. I'm a sophomore, and I play the bass.
And again, I'm Kelly DeMorett, and I'm their teacher, and I'm filling in tonight. This is typically a student-run ensemble and student-conducted and all student players, but we have some kids gone at the hockey game, of course. So so here I am. But thank you so much for allowing us to play for you guys tonight. We have about 93 students in our orchestra program at Eastridge currently, so we're really excited with the growth that it's had in the last 9 years that we've been in existence. We are presenting a concert on Monday, March 4th. We'd like to invite all of you to, especially anyone that has young children or grandchildren or anything. It's going to be all Disney music and hopefully some Disney characters there. So we invite children to wear costumes, bring their teddy bears, whatever they'd like, and just a really relaxed environment that parents can feel comfortable bringing young children to and not have to worry about interruptions or anything like that. So again, Monday, March 4th, 6 p.m. in the Loft Stage at Eastridge. Again, thank you for having us tonight.
Thank you. Sounded fantastic. That was awesome.
Actually, Board Chair Brunnette, if I could make a suggestion, we'd love to invite the orchestra back. Next time we have a controversial decision, you could help calm the crowd and us down, because I felt very soothed. That was awesome. Thank you.
5.0 is public comment. At this time, individuals may speak to the school board on any item that is not on tonight's agenda. The board will not respond to or discuss your comments, character abuse, or specific complaints. Identifying staff, students, or task force members will not be permitted. The superintendent may be asked to prepare a response to your concerns, and our policy allows for 3 minutes. We do not have anyone who has signed up already this evening, but if anyone would like to speak, now is the time. All right, seeing none, we will move on to 6.0, which is our consent agenda. All items on our consent agenda are considered routine and non-controversial by the school board and will be approved by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items, but prior to the meeting, board members did have the opportunity to request that one of the items be moved to an action item for individual consideration. That has not happened this evening, so I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Sharon, second by Pat, and one of the items in our consent is the resolution to accept gifts, and Ron will let us know how much we have had donated recently.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Tracy. Again, 6.6 on our agenda this evening. We always like to take the opportunity and thank those generous donors. This last month in January, we had $156,799 that was donated, which gives us a school year total now of $571,186. And again, there's the financial part of a donation, but we also want to thank and recognize all those people that donate all those countless hours within our schools, too. We really appreciate that. So at the end of the board meeting, we do actually run the credits at the end. So if you see somebody's name and you know those folks in the community, please say thank you from the school district for us, too. Thanks, Tracy.
Yeah, thank you. So all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 7.0 are workshop items. They will be on our March 7th agenda. 8.0 are information items. 8.1 is our Indian Education Committee update, and Kristine Schaefer, Assistant Superintendent, will join us.
Good evening, Board Chair Brunnette, school board members, Dr. Jacobus, and student representatives. We're excited to be here tonight to update you on the programming happening in our district to support our Native American students and families in District 833. I'd like to introduce to you in a minute our new Native American liaison, Brittany Amatrano. In a minute, you're going to hear her talk about what she's been working on this year with our Native American students and families. And you'll also have the opportunity to hear from Janice Erickson, the chairperson of our Native American Parent Committee. So with that, please welcome Brittany Amatrano.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. Again, my name is Brittany Amatrano. I'm the Native American Cultural Liaison. I started this position October 2018, and I just wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity to work with American Indian students and their families here in the school district. So far, I love the work I do in this community and the support I receive from the schools, parent committee, and the district. Okay. Tonight, we would like to update you with the American Indian Education Plan and Program in addition to introducing you to the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee. To begin, I will review 2 funding resources for American Indian programming. For the 2018-19 school year, we received state funding for American Indian programming. School districts in Minnesota with 20 or more American Indian students are eligible to apply for American Indian aid to implement Indian education programming. There's going to be an edit on this third bullet. For the 2018-19 school year, the Minnesota Department of Education reports that we have 159 self-identified American Indian students enrolled in District 833. And based on that number, we received $67,256. The purpose of these funds and this program is to increase academic achievement of American Indian students, decrease the dropout rate, and improve school climate for our American Indian students. The second source of funding we receive from the American Indian Education Program is federal funding. Federal funding is also called Title VI funding and impact aid. American Indian families are required to fill out a 506 form proving American Indian enrollment or provide proof that they are a descendant. We continue to communicate with and encourage our American Indian families to complete the 506 form to assist us in growing our Native American program. This year, these funds will be used to provide funding for family nights, cultural field trips for students, college tours, conferences, or workshops for our Parent Advisory Committee, and professional development for staff. Each year, the Minnesota Department of Education has required school districts receiving funding to create an American Indian Education Plan in collaboration with the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee. The goals for this year are, number 1, initiate collaboration between early childhood education programs and American Indian programming by inviting families to participate in our community cultural events. Goal number 2, all American Indian third graders achieve grade level literacy. Goal number 3, the proficiency of all American Indian students enrolled as of October 1st in all assessed grades, 3rd through 8th, 10th, and 11th, in the South Washington County School District on the State Math Accountability Test will increase from 46.15% in 2018 to 60% in 2019. Goal number 4, the average composite ACT score for American Indian students in South Washington County School District will increase from 18.25 to 22 in 2019. And number 5, the 4-year graduation rate for American Indian students in the South Washington County School District will increase from 75% in 2018 to 78% in 2019. And there's a typo on that one too. Our strategies are the following. Provide support to American Indian students and families in District 833, provide professional development around American Indian education and history. We have a parent advisory committee who we gather input and assistance from in planning and programming, provide several family engagement events throughout the school year. We also guide and support staff in providing American Indian education resources and curriculum to staff in the district. In addition to our goals and strategies, these are the 3 other staff members that support and oversee the American Indian Education Program. Dr. Keith Jacobus, Superintendent, Kristine Schaefer, Assistant Superintendent, and Trina Patterson, Educational Achievement and Integration Coordinator. Here are some of the highlights of the Indian Education Program for this year. We held family events to build community with our families, attended the Minnesota Indian Education Association Conference, collaborated with teachers at the elementary and secondary level to provide culturally relevant lessons and resources, supported students and families in navigating the school system, set up college visits, and provided ACT tutoring to all the juniors in all the high schools. In the fall, the students went to the University of Minnesota, and this spring we are planning to take the students to St. Cloud State University and the University of Minnesota-Morris. These are some of the family events that have taken place and or what we have coming up. Indigenous Roots Collaboration, Raptor Night, Indigenous Indoor Games, drumstick making, hoop dancing, and in May of 2019, for the graduating senior class, we invited Ruth Buffalo. She's a member of the North Dakota House of Representatives and the first Native American Democratic woman elected to the North Dakota legislature, as our keynote speaker. We have also done collaborations in the classrooms. Examples of topics that have been covered in the presentations are Minnesota tribes, treaties, mascots, Native American customs, regalias, and upcoming events in the Native American communities within the Twin Cities. And this slide explains the statute on how to obtain state funding for American Indian education and the requirements to receive federal funding. And here are the following members for District 833, American Indian Parent Advisory Committee. Now I would like to introduce you Janice Erickson, the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee Chair. She will go over the Parent Committee's resolution for this year's Indian Education Plan for District 833.
Good evening. Each school year, the Parent Committee will vote on concurrence or non-concurrence to determine if the committee concurs that the school board and district are compliant with the Minnesota Statute Section 124D-78 and that the school board and that the district are meeting the needs of the American Indian students. District 833 American Indian Parent Committee vote was held on Tuesday, January 31st at 5:30 p.m. Our committee issued a vote of concurrence on the Indian Education Plan for the South Washington County School District. So I just want to take this time to say thank you very much for your continued support, and I appreciate all the hard work that you do for all of our students, including the American Indian students. And if you ever have any questions or want to meet with us or come to any of our meetings, you're more than welcome. So thank you for your help and support.
And I just want to take this time to thank the school board chair, Tracy Brunnette, all the school board members, Dr. Jacobus, Kristine, Trina, Janice, and the parent committee for your time and attention to supporting our school district and enhancing education for Native American students. And with that, are there any questions?
When do you meet?
That's the next meeting. Next Thursday.
Yeah, next Thursday.
Next Thursday?
Mm-hmm. There's a parent event next Thursday.
We have a family event next Thursday at Altman Middle School at 6 o'clock.
Okay, I'd like to invite Justice McCaig, who is the first Native American to appointed to the Minnesota Supreme Court.
Okay, awesome. Okay, anything else?
Any other questions?
Just awesome job, and very great to see the parent involvement. I think it's such a great piece of our cultural liaison program, and want to thank you for taking such an active role as a parent and as a liaison to be able to extend the learning, and for people to see people like them in the school is really great, and I want to appreciate Kristine also for your leadership.
Thank you. 8.2, website redesign. Our Director of Communications and Community Relations, Shelly Schaefer.
Yes, one moment. All right, good evening, Chair Brunnette, school board members, Dr. Jacobus, and student representatives. It's truly a pleasure to be here tonight to get to the opportunity to talk about the work that we've been doing over the last year and a half on the website redesign for South Washington County Schools. Tonight I am joined by Ben Reichel, our webmaster, and Cassandra Knudsen, one of our video communication specialists. And both of them have put a tremendous amount of effort into ensuring a very smooth rollout of an exceptional website that we're excited to show you tonight. Part of the reason that we have decided to do I should also mention Julie Pryor-Miller with Community Education. She's one of our communication specialists, helped out as well, so thank you to Julie. Part of the reason that we decided to do a website redesign is that industry standards recommend that we refresh every 3 years. And for us, it's been about 5 years, so it's about time. Also, when I started about a year and a half ago, updating the website was one of the top priorities that Dr. Jacobus talked about. And he believed, as I do, that it's really important that we align as one district. So that means if you go to any of our websites, it is very clear that it is part of South Washington County Schools. They all look alike. They're the same template, and it's an emphasis on branding. And part of the other reasons that we when we were looking at rebranding a new website, ADA compliance was very important for us. So as I had mentioned in our summer update, the new regulations that took effect in January of 2018, and we worked really hard to align our new website to make sure that we are in compliance. And this new template is made with ADA compliance in mind so that everything that we put in is going to be automatically compliant with ADA. It was also very important that we improve security. So our website is currently hosted internally, and by shifting the maintenance of the site to a trusted third-party vendor, it ensures that the site will be as secure as possible, as the vendor has various levels of protection in place and assumes the responsibility of troubleshooting issues should they arise. Lastly, it was really important for us to improve the ease of use for our families, our staff, and our community members. We want to make sure that everybody who comes to the website can find anything that they need very easily, and we really believe that this new website will be able to accomplish that. So after meeting with several vendors, we've decided to sign an agreement with School Messenger. And some of the factors that went into deciding on School Messenger were, as I had mentioned, the ADA compliance and support aspect. School Messenger is considered to be has an incredible amount of marketplace experience. There are many school districts that are using them, and they're one of the leaders within ADA compliance for school websites. We wanted a website that would enhance security measures, as I mentioned previously. And our new website has responsive design. So what that means is that as the screen changes, whether it's a mobile device, a tablet, or your desktop, the website will look the same on any device. And that was really important because the trends have been showing that the majority of our community members are accessing our website on mobile devices. So that was an important component. One of the selling points of our new website was the ease for use of software. So for our web editors, it was really a lot easier on the back end to upload and change things on the website. All of our websites have Google Translate built in so that any information on our website can be easily translated. This is important to us as a district as we strive to make sure that all of our families are getting the important information from the district and feeling included. And lastly, School Messenger was the most cost-effective, as they were the lowest cost option of the 4 vendors that we met with. So we have been working actively with School Messenger since around last July. But before we get too far into giving you a sneak peek of what the website looks like, Ben is going to take us down a trip of memory lane to look at how far we've come with the website templates over time.
Thank you. I get the fun part. So in 1996, we started our journey into the World Wide Web with a simple, very basic site with just a couple of links. In 1999, we developed a full website with more links in a vertical menu structure. We added pages and content for community education, the virtual media center, calendars, the lunch menus. The news was a separate page from the home. The district policies were first posted on the website, and we added a sign up for an email listserv. In 2002, the news was added to the homepage. School board information was added to the main menu. We added pages for timely topics, and the footer navigation was at the bottom of the pages. In 2004, the news remained in the center. Main navigation moved to the top as drop-down menus. The calendar and lunch menus returned as main points, with a calendar added to the right and lunch menus and other graphical links on the left. The first version of quick links were added above the calendar. And in 2007, this was the switch to the maroon color scheme, and that was the introduction with a diamond logo. There were clearly defined sections, including the hot topics and quick links. Search function was added with this website, and the email listserv sign-up was branded as info to go. And finally, our current website was designed in 2014 with a more refined layout. It had scrolling featured images. The hot topics were moved to the right, and it had an expanded and organized list of quick links at the bottom. So that's how far we've come. Now Cassandra's going to go through a demo of what's next with School Messenger.
Thank you. So this is what the new website is going to look like. You will never see that all at once, of course, because that's not how websites work. But if you were, this is kind of what you would see. I'm going to turn off the screen for a minute while I sign in to the website. Currently, our website is password protected, so only the people who have passwords can see it. Right. When we are in edit mode, we get this top bar that you won't necessarily see when you are viewing from the public perspective, and it's got all of our edit features. Below that is the bar that you will see at the top of the screen if you are viewing publicly. And that is where you will be able to select a school from our options. It also has our Google Translate feature built in, so you can translate the website in real time in many different languages. And that's where our search bar will be located. One of the big changes for this website is our navigation. We really wanted things to be easy to find. So we've added a couple new sections to our navigation bar. We've kept our About section, but we've changed it so now we have academics and departments. Previously we had academics and services, and those were broken down to the departments of the district that would kind of fall into those sections. Now under our academics you will find programs that we want to highlight. So, and those could be for early learning, adult learning, or K-12 programs. And then all of the district departments will be found under the department tab. We also have quick links right at the top for community education, the calendar, and a contact us page. Below that, we are replacing our featured image section and our hot topic section with changing photos in a banner slideshow. So we'll rotate between 5 and 6 photos that'll just highlight some of our students. And below that, we have a new stats bar. What we really wanted to do is to give people a quick glance what our district represents. We wanted to show people that we have 7 hometowns and 24 schools, 2,500 staff members, 18,000 students, and a 92% four-year graduation rate. Below that, we've got our quick links section. Now this was determined using Google Analytics of what were the most popular sections on our website. What we found is that there were some options that it got to be that there were too many. And so what we decided to do is put the most popular options there. So like lunch menus, employment, and enrollment will be quickly accessible. And calendar was added to the top navigation page. But we've also added sections based on the user. So if you're a parent, you could go to a parent section that would have more quick links that you might find helpful, and a lot more details on how to get involved in your school. The same for community and staff pages. Next to quick links, we have a quick welcome that talks a little bit about our district and what makes us unique. And below that, we have our calendar and latest news, which will update automatically based on what is upcoming and new. What was really important to us is considering that mobile-first design, because 50% of our users are coming to us from mobile sites. We're really excited about School Messenger because it gives us this mobile preview. So this is what it'll look like on a mobile device. And we wanted to make it quickly accessible so that you don't have to scroll too far to get to what you need. This is what our school sites will look like. They'll keep their same colors, but we've made it quickly accessible to get to the district page again, and you can see that the district logo is right there. They still have their banner, which will be updated, and they also have their phone and attendance line and hours right at the top of the screen. When you scroll down on a mobile device, those phone numbers will be clickable, so you could call right from your phone. They have the similar quick links and a welcome message customized to their school. Below that, they have a calendar that will have the district dates, but will also have school-specific dates on it. And then they have a map, so you can just hit that and it'll open up on Google Maps if you have that installed on your phone. And this is our new community education website. This is where a lot of our really big changes happened. We're going to be shifting away from the blue coloring to the maroon coloring to match with the district. We've also added a couple new sections on our main navigation for seniors, aquatics, and community, I believe. We will also be changing the URL. So right now it's cecool.org, and it'll be going to ce.sowashco.org. This will keep it in line with our school sites, which are all those first initials and then .sowashco. So now I will turn it back over to Shelly to talk a little bit about the timeline of when this will be going public.
All right, thank you, Cassandra and Ben. So just to recap, we started this website redesign discussion back in the summer of 2017. In the fall and winter of 2017-18, we had technical demonstrations with vendors. In July of 2018, we selected School Messenger. In August of that year, we did the selection of the new template. And then in September, we really put some thought into rethinking that toolbar and got some feedback from school leaders and a select parent group. And then last fall, they did the site migration with all of the current content from our current website onto the new content, or onto the new website. And then in January, we did training for all of our site administrators and school and department website editors. And following those trainings, we sent out a survey to request feedback from those website editors of what is working really well with the new website and what are areas for improvement. Then earlier this month, we offered a limited release to school board members, system leaders, and select parents. And again, we're seeking that feedback before we go live, just wanting to make sure that we're touching on all of the various points to make it most successful. Our goal is to go live at the beginning to mid-March. We were hoping to go live at the end of February. The weather kind of put us back a little bit because a lot of our time was dedicated to messaging and things like that, but we're hopeful that we don't have too many more days and we will get back on track and shoot for a beginning to mid-March soft launch. And so as I've been talking about the website, I kind of talk about it in terms of it's a living, breathing entity, and that while we'll do a soft launch in March publicly, there's still room for improvement, constant, continuous improvement. We're already talking about kind of phase 2 and looking at adding more contact forms and other ways to make it most efficient for our users. So. That is all that we have for you tonight. So we thank you for the time and would ask if you have any questions.
Maybe just one quick one. So the URL will stay the same for the website. So if somebody goes in Google's March and all of a sudden they'll get the new site then, right? They're not going to have to pick from multiple ones that show up in a Google list.
Correct. Yep. Once it actually goes live, that will replace all of our URLs that stand right now, and the old CE Cool will be redirected to the new website, so there won't be any confusion on the user end.
In the hot topics, will there be kind of a note to that, hey, this is a new look, new A new refreshed?
Yes, we will send out messaging to our community before it goes live, just kind of giving them a little bit of a preview, explaining what is to come and why we decided to do the refresh. Yeah.
I hope you have a chance to go through and look for things, because one of the things I think on our current website, as it grows and we add things that I know should be there, I struggle sometimes to navigate to find it. So I want to thank the team, and they've done a phenomenal job of making this a very user-friendly website, and then one that we can update on a regular basis, much more efficiently and easily. So,
thank you.
I have one question. So will the local schools and web editors still be able to manage from the site? Is it easy to use from that perspective?
Yes, absolutely. And Ben or Cassandra can talk a little bit more to it, but that was one of a big part of the feedback that we're hearing already from the users, is that it's much more easy to upload and change content and that they can do it remotely. Do you want to add anything on that end? No?
That's what we've heard.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the great feature about this is, you know, with our old website, it was a little bit more hard-coded and things like that, and so you can kind of just hop into this fresh, and it works a lot like things that we're familiar with. I mean, very similar to WordPress and things like that. And the remote accessibility part is awesome. We don't have to VPN to use our website anymore, which means we can kind of edit it on the go wherever.
I love the mobile. That's awesome. Yeah, it looks great.
And I like the maps. And I wish, does it show where to park?
You could probably zoom in a little bit. But.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much. 8.3, first reading of policies 510.3 and 620. Assistant Superintendent Mike Johnson.
Good evening, Chair Brunnette, board members, Dr. Jacobus, and student representatives. Tonight we've got a couple policies. Policy 510.3 was chosen for review and editing, and Policy 620 is a new policy to be adopted. These policies have been reviewed by select district staff groups and revised to reflect updates in Minnesota state statute, definition of terms, legal references, and cross-references. Board Policy Committee members Sharon Van Leer, Heather Hirsch, and Michelle Whitty reviewed these policies and made recommendations for board information and subsequent action. These policies will be presented for a second reading and approval at the March 7th, 2019 board meeting. This evening I'd like to start with Policy 620. It's a new policy for adoption. We've used MSBA model policy as our guide, and Kelly Jansen had been instrumental in leading this process. She held 4 meetings with secondary principals, Kristine Schaefer, and me, and Kelly at this time will provide some background to this policy and the discussions that we had.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Good evening, Chair Brunnette, Superintendent Jacobus, student reps, and board members. So Policy 620 is new to 833, but it is not a new policy. It's what we're reading from this evening is MSBA's template for policies, is what we use when we start to draft policies. So this isn't something we've created from scratch. This is something we took MSBA's policy and we're now bringing it to 833, so we can outline some of the things that our secondary schools are dealing with and for when it comes to credit for learning. So I'll take a few minutes to walk you through some of the changes that we have, changes and or areas we had to decide what to add to this policy. The purpose really is to recognize that student achievement happens outside our 4 walls of our schools, and that we are going to honor that and give credit for that, and then address how we're going to transfer that credit into our schools so students can get credit towards graduation. Section 4 talks about transferring credit from other schools. There are other Minnesota public schools, other schools outside of Minnesota, and then home schools. And a couple highlights from this section. If a student earns 6 credits, at least 6 credits from us, then those credits that are transferred in will be used to calculate graduation honors and or academic letter. So they have to earn 6 credits up before we will look at those coming in to be part of that. The other part that's important to note in this section is that when the credit comes in, the counseling office as a designee of the principal will look at many different factors to determine if that credit is a graduation requirement, a graduation elective credit, and where it fits. And so that'll help build that student's schedule as they've transferred to our school. So those are made generally by the counselors, but the principal is the person that makes the final say on that. Section 5 discusses post-secondary enrollment, and that we know we have students who are taking those post-PSEO courses, and that those courses and those credits will transfer in. And again, that determination is made whether it's a required graduation credit or an elective graduation credit. Section 6 talks about credit from online learning, which is getting more and more popular as we get into later into the 21st century. And this section just addresses that credit from the online learning courses will be transferred in and how that process works. We did add in red in this section that, as you know, students who are enrolled in online, we still provide them space and we provide them technology, and they are allowed to be within our school even if they don't have a full schedule with us. And so we did add to this section that even if you're enrolled in an online learning course, you are expected to follow our student code of conduct if you stay within our buildings. Section 7 discusses advanced academic credit, and the main thing we see in this area is the UMP Youth Math program. It's not an actual PSEO course, but it's an advanced credit that students will go and take. And so that's the main credit that we see that is an advanced academic credit that doesn't really fit in any of those other areas. Section 8 discusses the credit for courses taken in middle school, and we do honor students who meet the rigorous course level, the coursework level of high school in our middle schools, and those credits are transferred to their high school transcript. However, their GPA does not transfer with them. So the course credit transfers, but the GPA is not calculated into their high school GPA. And that's current practice, and we just wanted to put that in policy so we are being transparent about how that process works. Section 9 discusses credit by section, and this is Minnesota statute. It's not necessary that it's part of this policy. As you can see, it's in red. However, we thought it was important that it was the way that parents were communicated with it. This is an option. If your student has had a different learning experience and you believe they've met learning targets, we need to have a process where we can assess that learning and then determine credit for that according to Minnesota statute. Section 10 is the weighted grade section, and this is the section we spent most of those 4 meetings discussing. And our current policy is we do weight grades at our high school, and we wanted to define why and how. And so as we had these conversations, we really landed on that if we are teaching or if we are involved in a curriculum that's normed or monitored by an outside agency, and it's deemed to be more rigorous than a general level of high school coursework, that we would weight that grade. And so courses that fall into that category are advanced placement, college in the schools, concurrent enrollment, international baccalaureate, project lead the way, and then UMP. And you'll notice if in UMP, we will take the unweighted grade from UMP and we will weight that ourselves. And there's been some confusion as to how we weight UMP grades. Sometimes they were coming to us weighted and then they were weighted again. And so we wanted to be clear on how we will weight UMP grades as they come. And those are just a couple math courses that our students are taking there. And then those courses will be identified with a WGT on their transcripts. So you'll notice there's a change in here that current practice is that we weight our high school Spanish immersion courses, so the geography or the social studies course that students take in Spanish immersion, and we've had lots of discussion about that, and you'll find that it varies across the metro if it's weighted or not weighted. And so because we relied on that statement that this is an outside agency saying this is more rigorous and normed, that we would not weight Spanish immersion moving forward. And after this discussion and after if there's an approval, then we will work with the communication with parents on how that is going to phase in and what that means. The final section just discusses the process for awarding credit and that the principal will have a say. However, parents always have the opportunity to appeal to Dr. Jacobus, who will work with the principal and the parents, and if there isn't resolution, then the parents have the option to appeal to the Commissioner of Education. So, a lot of information, but I'd be happy to entertain any questions tonight. Or
any questions?
I
have one question. So in 9, credit by assessment, so can any student ask to test out of any class? Is that how that reads?
Yes, and that's a statute. One thing we have put in place is a process where they need to show us how they've learned that. So a student can't come and say, I think I could test out of this class. There needs to be a demonstration of how they've learned it. Maybe they're going to test out of Spanish because they spent the summer in Spain, and they, so there has to be a way that they demonstrate that they've met that criteria, and so that's part of the application process.
Okay.
But it can be for any course that we offer.
Anybody else?
You have a,
Oh, yeah. Why?
With the Spanish immersion not being weighted anymore, would that be implemented this coming year? So 1920?
It'll be phased in for incoming 9th graders. So next year's 9th graders will experience this as part of their policy.
So people who currently are in the program in high school will continue to be weighted throughout the rest of high school?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's just the social studies?
That's just the social studies course, yes.
Anyone else?
Is it the AP? Because they had we just had regular, you didn't have AP.
AP is weighted.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
On to 510.3, athletic and activity fee schedule. This evening, we're unable to have an activities director with us. They're very busy with state hockey and so many things. It's section time. It's crunch time for those activities directors. The score is not real good. Anyway, however, we've made, like with Kelly's, with 620, we've met numerous times on this. We've also given this to the principals at the secondary level for their review and editing. I hope the board is okay with the second page of this where we had it in a grid format. I wanted to kind of clean it up and put it on just one page because there were many changes to this. But first off, with the purpose and the general statement of policy, just a couple minor additions right there, but very welcome edits on those. So first off, I'd like to start with the level 1, 2, 3. In the past, we've leveled those 3 categories of fees. We wish to only have 2 levels now, with the first level being 170. The past level 1, we had 5 sports or 5 athletics at the time. We wish to move those from 160 to 170. The previous level 2, we would just keep that as level 1. We added adapted floor hockey and dance team. Those had not been on there in the past. Even though students were paying the fees for them, we needed to include those when we looked through it. And then hockey would be from level 3 to just level 2, going from $190 to $200. We have not had an increase since 2015 as well. And why are the prices set the way they are? We really like to really be consistent with the SEC. There were a couple schools or districts that were very high, and then there were maybe a couple that were a bit lower with these types of activities and athletics, I should say. Our fees are not enough to cover everything, but we just wanted to cover a set amount of expenses, coaching costs or advising costs, for example. So moving on to the fine arts with one-act play and debate and speech, we added debate to that for 130. That had not been on there in the past, and we wanted to switch speech from 135 down to 130. We've learned through the activities directors that knocking off $5 would be kind of nice. The kids that do the speech often do the one act as well, so that's what the activities directors felt would be appropriate. For the activities themselves, sideline cheerleading, the activities directors wanted to add a sideline to that. And in the past it was a flat fee, but we're finding that because there's fall and winter sideline cheer, some students don't participate in both. So for one, let's just go $60 for fall and $60 for winter. For the high school musical and play, and any board member who was on the committee, feel free to chime in. But the high school musical and play, we just wanted to go 60 and 30 with that, the length of the season, so to speak, or the performance schedules. We had taken off K-12 band instrument semester 1 and 2 per Brent Como and Allison Johnson. They're the two liaisons we work with the activities, especially related to music. Last month when I had spoken with them, they wanted it to read band and orchestra instrument rental and just do that for the entire year for $90. That takes care of most of the maintenance costs for those items or for those instruments. There were a few with middle school one-act play clubs, downhill ski, and community ed club sports that stayed the same. Middle school, if a middle school activity, for example, newspaper, wasn't running, the principals just said, let's just take that off, and if it comes back to life again, we'll put it back on. The discussion now to add and establish certain fees and providing a little bit of rationale. Want to talk about adapted bowling. Although we had it last year and we did have a fee for it, it wasn't in this document, so we wanted to place that on there. We had discussion regarding robotics and marching band and trap shooting. To give a little bit of background on that with robotics, the board committee and I had discussed it. If a fee is mandatory, we're speaking with the committee, there wasn't state high school league affiliation per se. They are a foundation partner for a state tournament for robotics, but it's not technically a sanctioned activity. If there's any type of transportation cost or labor cost, coaching, advising, we thought it would be appropriate to do a fee. This coming year would be $30, and then the following year would be a full $60. We didn't want to jump from 0 to 60 in 1 year. So that's for robotics. For the summer and fall marching band, in the past we have not assessed a fee for that. The costs are fairly substantial, so we thought we would propose $30 per student for summer and fall marching band for next year, just like the robotics, and then propose $60 for the following year. The vouchers, probably about $20,000 per for the summer and for the fall. And then for the trap shooting, we put down no fee. Although it's their state competition is sanctioned by the state high school league, they're somewhat of a foundational partner, much like the robotics. But according to the activities directors, there are no entry fees for their contests. They're not providing transportation, and all the expenses on the kids and their families. So we decided or determined not to charge that fee. So with that, I'd like to entertain any questions or comments. And board committee, feel free to add anything you would like as well.
There are ways for families to get sponsorship or scholarships or fee reduction or something for some of these, especially like I'm thinking some of the ones that maybe didn't have fees before, and maybe that's why these kids were able to participate. And now if we're charging a fee, I just don't want to see kids not being able to do it anymore.
Absolutely. I'm very confident, and in the general statement of policy regarding fees, just to state, families qualifying for free and reduced lunch program may be eligible for assistance based on a sliding scale. We do have, adults, whether they could be staff members or family members, will speak to the activities directors, or they will share that information. And from what in my 5 years, I've been working with the activities directors, that's always been a very smooth, positive experience for those families.
And that will even apply to the ones that are the additions.
Correct.
I didn't know if it was just the actual level 1 and 2.
Oh no, that would be for everything.
Okay.
And Mike, we did talk as well, there is a family maximum that they pay, so that these fees would also apply to that. So a family wouldn't, that family maximum is not changing.
I believe it's $505, and with the activities directors, we felt at this time we don't need to raise that right now.
I'd also add that, when you looked at the additions, you look at the use of facilities, and that, trying to look at what, you look at something like hockey being really high and the cost of ice and things like that. But in the reality, pretty much none of these fees cover the full, don't even touch what the full cost is. So for me, there's still such an incredible benefit to our activities, but we owe it also to provide some equity to I think that's what, was difficult. I'm a robotics super fan. But also, I think if kids who are doing other activities also have to pay, it's only fair that another Minnesota High School League related organizations should pay. So I like the gradation, and we have the scholarships. So I think it was some good compromise as we talked it through.
I also feel, too, the activities directors would work with families. There may be families that don't qualify, but they're in a situation where fees could be an issue, and they're very flexible in making sure we can get as many kids as possible to participate, not make the fee impediment.
And I think that's also for parents to understand the sustainability of sports and activities, all our fine arts activities and plays. I mean, there's so much. That's a big chunk of funds. So being able to kind of work as partners with us really aids in the sustainability of keeping those fees there and then affordable for everybody. So,
Mike, you're probably going to have to refresh my memory. Do we post then each of these activities what there is for coaches for each activity? Because that's the question I usually get. Does this club or does this event, does it get a head coach and 2 assistants or just a head coach? And I can't remember if we actually published that, but that seems like the question I'm always getting. I'm supportive of the changes bringing forward, but I'm thinking, I don't know if it fits in here, but is there a way to capture that so when people have those type of questions? I don't know if it's really a policy, or would it help direct our ADs to make sure that every one of our schools are, at least at the baseline, all equitable, that everybody gets, 1 coach and 2 assistants based on size?
No, that's a great question. We, for example, we tried to work with Schedule C with the contract, but also for adapted bowling, for instance. There are certain things that we're growing and we're adding more activities, so we need to add to that. But to your point about a list of all and what would be the minimum, and we just had a discussion yesterday with the activities directors about the ability to add, because we're getting X amount more students for, let's say, a certain, because they're registering now for the spring, and oh my gosh, we've got so many more students, let's just say for lacrosse, so we need another team. So I think that would probably help us to put something just in one document as somewhat of a procedure or an addendum to say, here are the positions we do have for these activities and athletics.
And Mike's also worked not only for the minimum, this is what we approve, but also for all the additions that booster clubs want to add. We are limiting where we are to have equitable piece there, because there's a lot of funding that can come through that. And if that's wonderful if the booster club's that supportive, but there's other ways to channel the funds to the kids then as well. And that's been a discussion that Mike has led.
And HR and finance have been very helpful when booster clubs wish to have another coach. Let's say, well, they can't just pay for that coach. They've got to go through our HR and finance to ensure that it's the correct amount, and background checks are done and all of those types of items.
Any other questions, comments? All right, so since this is a first reading with our policies, we do invite any public comment if anyone has any comments, questions, concerns on the policies that we're presenting this evening. All right, seeing none, we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. 8.4 is a financial update with our Director of Finance, Dan Pyan.
Good evening, Chair Brunnette, members of the school board, Dr. Jacobus, and Hannah and Maya. I'm here to give you our monthly financial update. It's not a real long one. I could tell you just a short story. My friend was at the doctor, and he knew he had to lose a lot of weight, and he just said, Doc, I need to lose some weight. And the doctor said, hey, here's what you do. For 2 days, only eat fruits and skip the third day, and then repeat this procedure. And come back in 2 weeks, and you'll have lost 5 pounds. So he comes back in 2 weeks, and he had lost 20 pounds, and the doctor's like, well, that's fantastic. And he said, yeah, it was good, Doc, but, that third day, I almost collapsed. And he said, why, because of the hunger? And he said, no, from all that skipping. Sharon gets it. You probably want me to skip that story, I bet. Anyway, tonight, this time of the year, we're working on our budgets for revising the current one and working on next year's budget, and we're constantly looking at enrollment. So usually the February update is really where we're at on enrollment and how we are looking at projections, and just trying to be conservative and looking at really what we have in this system. We do have to keep in mind that enrollment isn't looking as bright as we thought it would have. We're not quite sure why. We are starting a long-range facility planning process, and part of that process will be demographic studies done by an outside contractor, and should be able to give us an idea of how many kids we're going to have in the future and where they need to go to school. But in looking at the current enrollment for 18-19, which is our current fiscal year, at this point it looks like we're about 230 students behind what we had projected. There's a couple of factors that could change that, and 230 students translates to about $2 million. So still only 1.5% of our revenue budget, but it is something as we have a low fund balance that we have to keep track of. There's a couple of factors, though, that we have to keep looking at. As I do my projection for 18-19, I take into account that the number of PSAO kids that count as students in the system, but if they're any time that they're not in our district, it takes away from what's called our average daily membership, of which we get paid. So I've been estimating PSAO students, and we're looking at a better method to see if we can figure out which ones we be paid for and which ones not. So that reduction has caused our enrollment to go down. Also, early childhood special ed, we don't really know those numbers till the end of the year, so we're kind of guessing. And that could be a little higher too. Then also shared time students. So those three factors could raise what my enrollment projection is, because I was pretty conservative and I put it down pretty low. I guess what's a little more concerning to me is next year's numbers, and I haven't got the new numbers since we had kindergarten roundup, but however, those numbers right now, we're actually looking at a slight decrease in enrollment, and I would hope we'll have a better idea in a couple months, and hopefully that decrease will not happen. But that's just taking the numbers that we have on hand. But so enrollment is down a little bit. It's very important for us to have a good idea what the projection will be for the end of this year, only because we'll be revising the budget. And as we put the new numbers into the revised budget, it'll give us new revenue numbers and give us a better idea how we're going to end up. So that's from the revenue side of it. And the reason we don't always know what our enrollment is because the state doesn't figure out what they're going to use for enrollment to pay you based on like one date. It used to be in the old days that October 1st, your enrollment, that's what you're getting paid for. Now it's done with an average daily membership, so they take how long your students are enrolled in school and average it out, so that basically an average of how many kids are in school every day, or enrolled in school every day. So that's our enrollment projection. The other update I have for you in the same attachment is the budget schedule, the budget process and the schedule. And you'll see that the first 4 budgets we'll be looking at will be presented to the school board for first reading on April 11th. And that would include the long-term facility maintenance budget, the debt service budget, the operating capital budget, trust fund budget, and then the 18-19 revised budget. Now that's not a for sure. Hopefully we'll have it done by then and we'll know. But that's a crucial budget, the 18-19 revised budget. And then in May, you'll hear presentations on the school nutrition budget and the community service budget. And then the first meeting of June, you'll hear a presentation on next year's, we call it the preliminary budget, but it'll be our budget for 1920. With that, that's all I had for an update this time, and entertain any questions. Otherwise, hope you have a nice evening.
So Dan, one quick question. How bad is the snow plowing budget right now?
I haven't wanted to look, so I haven't looked lately. But it generally costs us about $60,000 to $65,000 every time the snow is like this. And we budgeted about $765,000, so we're kind of running out of time. We actually had a pretty decent December and January, so we had a pretty good head start, but it's going to be hairy.
We had a point in any of the sites that we're having to haul snow out. Are we still able to pile it on our own facilities?
The last that had been updated was that they were going to start hauling it out, if they can find a place to put it, I imagine. But that was on the schedule to start hauling, and that is another expense too, but at some point it has to be moved out of there.
Okay, thanks.
I was at Cottage Grove Middle today, and the snow was so high over the bike racks that students' bikes are up right at the tree level, the branches in the snow. But the big issue too with the $65,000 per event, per plowing, is we had so many things with these storms, just like the cities and the counties, is that we had to plow twice for the same snowstorm because it came through and it just kept coming, and so that's impacted that budget too. So.
Bake sales.
Exactly.
I have a question too. So is there any talk about increasing open enrollment given our enrollment decline? I mean, this may be a blip, I know, but just wondering about that.
There's been thought to it, but we haven't discussed it at length, but there's a couple sites that we were looking at. It's really something that would probably be done on a site-by-site basis, because there's some schools we just couldn't fit any more kids in.
Okay.
And well, if that's it, we'll talk to the assistant superintendents and come back to you with recommendations on changing your parameters.
We have talked about that, the assistant superintendents and I, but part of the issue is that where we have the room, it's harder. People want certain schools when they open enroll, but I think we ought to look at increasing that percentage and hopefully bring in some more kids that way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. 8.5, we are going to be beginning our negotiations with our teachers for 2019 to 2021. And so as part of that process, we are going to be giving consistent updates on those negotiations. We're going to be reporting each board meeting. And so this evening, with that, we're going to have Michelle give us our first update.
All right, great. Well, we're pleased to report that negotiations toward a new collective bargaining agreement between South Washington County Schools and the United Teachers of South Washington County, UTSWC, were scheduled to begin on February 20th, 2019 at 4 p.m. However, due to inclement weather, it has been rescheduled for next Wednesday, February 27th at 4 p.m. at the District Service Center. We were able to start this process earlier than usual as a result of removing language from the previous contract, which had stated the parties shall not commence negotiations more than 60 calendar days prior to the expiration of this agreement. The district's negotiating committee consists of Kevin Witherspoon, Director of Human Resources, Dan Pyan, Director of Finance and Operations, Kristine Schaefer, Assistant Superintendent, and school board members Heather Hirsch, Katie Schwartz, and Sharon Van Leer. Kevin Rupp, the district's attorney, will also be on the committee as the facilitator. Over the last year, the school board has been conducting meetings with staff across our district to better educate ourselves about their priorities and concerns prior to this year's negotiations. As a result of these meetings, we have asked UTSWC to create with us a labor management working group. This potential group will help inform the negotiations process and would bring more voices to the table as we work to develop creative solutions to any challenging issues that may arise. We will continue to provide regular updates as the negotiation discussions proceed. These updates, along with any supplemental documents, will be available to the public on the school board page of the district's new website, www.sowashco.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're hoping that these communications will increase the transparency in the process and enhances the relationships we have with our teachers and our union. So Thank you, Michelle. All right, 9.0 are discussion items. 9.1 is the first reading of our revised 2019-20 calendar and our proposed 2020-21 calendar, and Superintendent Jacobus.
Thank you. Tonight I want to bring you an alteration to next year's calendar based on some feedback that we received from teachers throughout the fall, and then our calendar committee working on continued improvements, and then bring forward the proposal for the 2021 calendar as we move forward. So first, the 2019-20 calendar was approved by you as a board on April 26, 2018. We try to approve our calendars 1 year in advance to give people a chance to prepare for when students will be in school and other issues on the calendar. But after we started the school year this year without the back-to-school event at the beginning of the year and brought it in December, there was some positive feedback about how the year started, and teachers came forward at the elementary level and requested that we would consider moving the assessment days from the week that they currently were in to later in the week, and trading the days that are later in the week. And I'm going to show you on the calendar in a second, so I know it's hard to visualize this, but to move the workshop days in front of those assessment. What that would allow teachers to do, one of the things that the teachers really liked about the start of this year, it was the pace was much better to come in and be prepared and get ready for kids coming on the first day of school than with a number of things with our back-to-school event. The assessment days, when the elementary teachers come back right into the assessment days, they haven't had a chance to be in their room and get organized for the school year. They're proud of the rooms and want to welcome kids into a classroom that's ready, and they've had their thoughts together with the year. So if they come in with the workshop, they have some flexibility in time. Then they're prepared the next week for the assessment days for parents to come in and spend time with the kids, and their rooms are where they want to and organized. So the change would be on the 1920 calendar. August 20th and 21st will not be assessment days, but will be the teacher workshop days, and the assessment days will be moved to the next week, the 26th and 27th. Those are currently the workshop days, and they'll just flip to the week before. It is a change that I think is great and for the teachers, and there's plenty of time to let the teachers, the parents know as far as the schedule on when they're coming in for the fall assessments. The other change that came forward through the calendar committee that we'd like to come back and add to this calendar as well is when our kindergarten students start. In the past years, and this year included, our kindergartners started 2 days after the rest of the students started. And the reason for that is as kids were coming into the school that first day and getting organized, the feeling was we wanted to give our kindergarten kids a chance to come in a little bit later after we get organized. Kids are in the routine, so when the little ones come in, we can get them to the room and it doesn't seem difficult for them. With the assessment days, all of our kids have come in. They're used to where they are, and so it makes sense to have our kindergarten kids start at the same time as the rest of the school. For our parents, we think that's an added benefit too, particularly if they have older kids that have already started school and might be helping with daycare as work begins, and so everyone will start on the same day. So those are the three changes that would come forward for the next year's calendar. And again, this is a first reading as well, so I can entertain any questions about the proposed changes for next year.
Any questions?
Okay. So then on the first reading of the 2021 calendar, we would make the same changes in the assessment days. So from then on, we would change for the reasons I gave you when we talked about next year's calendar. And the same thing with kindergarten start would be different or would stay at the first day of school. The other aspect with this calendar, this is we have 2 years beginning in 2021 where Labor Day is later in September. So Labor Day this school year is September 7th. That late start on the September 8th makes it harder to balance our trimesters to finish the the grading periods at natural breaks that we have with the winter break and some of our spring break in other areas, and it puts us farther into June. So the calendar committee is requesting that I would submit a waiver to the state to allow us to begin 1 week earlier. So we would start school on September 1st, and that would keep the calendar pretty much the same, at least the format and time starting or ending as the current calendar. The waiver is something that we qualify for each year because you need to have at least $400,000 of construction in the summer or more. We always have that with our HVAC updates and our normal maintenance with so many schools. So we know we'll qualify, and it's a process that we don't anticipate any problem with the waiver. Now, another thing that's happening with the weather that's taken place is that, as you know, the governor had made a statement that he's in support of the legislature looking at not requiring the 3 cold days. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in our report. There's also a bill that is being introduced or has been introduced, I'm not exactly sure where it is, that to give school districts at least 2 years, the 2 years where the Labor Day is late, to be able to start earlier. And then there's another bill that I don't know if where it's going to go, but also to give us the permanent ability to decide for ourselves in our districts when we start school and not be tied to the Labor Day. There was a hearing on that. I don't know if that'll go forward. I think we will get potentially legislative action to allow us to start these 2 years when Labor Day is later. But either way, we would be able to, with a waiver, or if the state just says for all school districts, you have that flexibility if the board wants to do that, look at starting. So those are the changes for that 2020 calendar, or 2021 calendar as well.
Dr. Jacobus, in the 2021 calendar, school would actually start for K through 9 on Monday, August 31st.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said August 1st because I looked right at it. And thank you, Dana, for helping me. Dana runs our calendar committee, and I told her I was going to ask her if we had any questions I couldn't answer, and she said no. So the volunteer was nice.
Nice. Any other questions, comments?
Publicly, I'm supportive of starting before school, so certainly have my approval or, my thought of moving forward. In fact, I've never quite understood why districts haven't had that, the ability to do that. It always behooved me now, especially with our fall activities. They all start a week before school starts anyways, and the first official football game happens without even the kids in school. So I'm certainly supportive of it to help balance the schedule out.
All right, great, thank you. 10.0 are action items. We have none this evening. 11.0 are the reports and comments. 11.1 is our superintendent's report.
Great. I'd like to start out with School Board Association Appreciation Week. So the Minnesota School Board Association has set February 18th through the 22nd as School Board Recognition Week in Minnesota. The recognition is a time to build awareness and understanding of the vital function an elected Board of Education plays in our society. Southwestern County School District is joining public school districts across the state to celebrate the School Board Recognition Week and to honor our local school board members for their commitment to the community. The key work of school boards is to raise student achievement by creating a vision for what the community wants the school district to be and for making student achievement a top priority. For establishing standards for what students will be expected to learn and be able to do, for ensuring progress is measured and to be sure that the district's goals are achieved and students are learning at expected levels, being accountable for their decisions and actions by continually tracking and reporting results, creating a safe, orderly climate where students can learn and teachers can teach, forming partnerships with others in the community to solve common problems, and focusing attention on the need for continuous improvement by questioning, refining, and revising issues related to student achievement. School board members give citizens a voice in education decision-making. Even though we make a special effort to show our appreciation in February, we know your contribution is a year-round commitment. And so I'd like to thank you for all the work that you have done for us in the school district and recognize school board members Tracy Brunnette, Ron Kath, Sharon Van Leer, Katie Schwartz, Michelle Whitty, Heather Hirsch, and Pat Driscoll. I have truly enjoyed working with all of you, and I admire your leadership and dedication and positive attitudes toward our future as a school district as we strive to ignite a passion for lifelong learning. So we have appreciation certificate, a certificate of our appreciation that I'd like to present to you, and then maybe, oh, Cassandra left. Maybe we can't get a picture. Good.
Thank you.
You might notice it's not in the district's colors. Thank you.
Those are MSBA colors.
MD.
Those are not indeed.
They are not?
No.
Okay, the school board. Thank you.
That's what happens when Keith makes them go.
Show her those things.
Sure.
Show her those things. Little picture.
We gotta get the kids in here too. We should get the kids in too. Do you guys want to maybe go up just up front, maybe, so we can see? Yeah, that, because otherwise, well, you guys are tall enough, but.
Yeah. At least you're company.
I don't even have to bend over.
Thank you.
Next, I want to talk about the weather. As the chief meteorologist in the district, I have a couple things that I want to talk to you about and get your advice. One is many districts have their school board chair call school off, and I'd like you to consider that from now on.
Yeah, no.
But after our closure on Wednesday, February 20th, we are now at a point where we need to make up one day to remain in compliance with the state statute on student instructional hours. Specifically, we are below the minimum number of instructional hours at the secondary level, but currently we schedule a similar number of days for both levels, even though the elementary requirement for instructional hours is less than the secondary. I would like to present two options for you to consider and to find out what direction you would like to follow in terms of addressing the shortfall in instructional time. I will bring the recommended solution back to you as a board for action at our next school board meeting. The first option is we could convert the April 29th day from a school day off to a school for students or a regular school day. In order to stay within the teacher contract, we would eliminate the last day of work for teachers, which is scheduled as an in-service or workshop day. So that's 2 months away that we could publicize for our parents and staff members to get ready for that 29th day. So we would simply make that a regular school day. A second option is we could add time to the school day in increments to increase the instructional time to up to 6 hours or one instructional day. Depending on how many days of school is left in the school year, we would dictate how many minutes we would need to add. We need an additional 360 minutes, or 6 hours. So 6 minutes a day, we need 60 days, or 10 minutes a day, we need 36 days. So it depends on if this is an option we choose and how many days. There are discussions at the legislature, as I mentioned earlier, to bring forward a bill to allow school boards to eliminate the 3 days of required instructional time based on the 3 days we closed due to extreme cold. As you know, Governor Walz has expressed support for allowing school districts that option. We do not know if or when a bill might be brought forward, but you could take action on one of the recommendations to add instructional time with the stipulation that if the legislators do pass a bill that allows you to determine that you would eliminate those 3 days from the instructional hours calculation, we would just revert back to our regular calendar. If the change would happen or the bill would come forward after April 29th, we would just simply continue with our current calendar until the end of the year. So I'd like to just informal consultation of what you would, which avenue you'd like me to pursue, and then I will bring back a recommendation for next board meeting.
Well, I like the option of the April 29th school day, because adding minutes is just not a good plan, I don't think. And hopefully the governor will do the right thing and forgive us those days.
And actually, as it might be in the paper, the governor is supportive, but it does have to go through the legislature for a bill. And we've heard that there's discussion about it, but with all of the budget coming out now, who knows when that might be heard or how, so it could go into May before we find out.
Yeah.
That's where you just come down the list, or?
Sure. I'm in the same boat. I think adding minutes to make up instructional days for part of the year doesn't really make sense. So I think, unfortunately, the kids may lose a day off and the teachers may gain another day with their students.
Mm-hmm. Ditto.
I'm fine with either option. I would like to, I think, add the day because it's February and last year we had snow days in April. So having that option to add time later on is maybe a good idea.
Same. I'd like both options. I'd like the time, the minutes better, but who cares?
Well, I'm certainly supportive of the day. I'm not really supportive of 3 to 6 minutes a day. To me, then we're just putting seats in a desk, and that doesn't, just to appease a number, and are we really educating our kids at that point? To me, that's just playing with the numbers. I would prefer to just make it a solid day. We've got good learning there, so I would focus on a full day.
I would say the same. It seems like adding minutes is not going to be adding actually instructional time as much. So I would definitely be supportive of adding that day.
Okay. Are you guys also as supportive as the school board chair making the decision on closing? Thank you.
Well, wait a minute now. How long did it take us to make the decision to cancel our meeting 2 weeks ago? So we do have a little track record.
I would say that it has been a difficult winter, as all superintendents would say, and parents and teachers and all the staff members. But I really like waiting until the morning to make a decision, because we have the weather service gives us updates throughout the day. Then they usually have a webinar at 3:30 or 4 in the morning, and sometimes things change. Since we've closed a number of times, and a lot of districts have the night before, I worry about some of the precedent that is being set, and it's a little bit stressful. We have said in the past we hope our parents would make arrangements if we're going to be closed, so they're set, and then if we stay open, then it's a little easier. But I am open to seeing if it's, as this last storm, I called the National Weather Service at 9:30 because I was still waiting to see, is it going to change? And when they could give us the pinpoint forecast in our district, it wasn't changing, and it was going to be really difficult. And so that call on the night before, I'm comfortable with that. A lot of times it doesn't happen as cleanly. And just like the 2 days before where some districts closed, when I was talking with Carrie Olson, our transportation director, they had been out on the roads, they had talked to the city, they felt like it might be a little bit slow, but we could get through. But I just have to, with just being consumed with the weather, just make that statement and try to do that as early as possible for parents. If we could do it, it certainly makes it easier. I'm not tossing and turning till 3 and getting up, then I'm just tossing and turning till 5:30 to see if it actually came to fruition. So, but I will try to do it as early as I can. I hope this is it for this year, but I don't know. As someone who loves winter, this is really pretty cool if it wasn't for school closures. So.
Well, Keith, in support of your decisions, you're in a position where you can't win. Half of the folks think we should stay open and half shouldn't. So I applaud you for the decisions you've made. You've made it in the best interest of our students being here safe. So thank you for that. And, the one thing when we think about closing schools, then, it kind of goes back for me as, one-to-one technology. And how could we leverage that into the future then? And when we do have these type of events, it's not a big deal because we've got curriculum that could be, used. Kids can be still working at home doing it. I'm one that my job provides me a laptop. So just the other day, I didn't have to drive to work. I worked from my home, and I was probably more productive there than a lot of times sitting at the coffee or the water cooler, spending all my time talking. So, there's a lot of, I think, options for us to think about as we move forward as a district.
And Kelly will be presenting, I think, next board meeting, but we're looking ahead at that. We had a commissioner's phone call on Wednesday, and a number of districts asked, can we go into a e-learning day right now? Well, the statute is set. You have to have that approved ahead of the school year. But we want to take a look at that. But also, just quickly, I would say our community has been outstanding. They have been so supportive with these decisions. We have very many positive comments. I get a number of great emails from students. I've learned so much about students' cars and their family life and their dogs in the snow. But this, as far as being concerned about it, there are always some concerns, but overall, and particularly this last one, people were very supportive. And so I really want to thank our community, because I know it puts families in a tough situation when we close. And I had talked to a parent early on where they were taking their vacation time, and half of their vacation time was going to get taken away without getting to that point of having a vacation. So I really want the community to know how difficult that is, and I weigh all of those things, and then the student safety is the biggest issue. But our parents and the community have been great.
Yeah, I would say too that for me, they're difficult decisions, but I like the fact that we build extra days into the calendar to accommodate that. And as hard as it is, there's nothing wrong with a day off. To me, I think of all the students driving and those types of things, and I just have a general feeling it helps parents to know the night before, if it's possible. When everybody's going down, you can watch them. They're all falling in line. So I support the early decision as much as we like to get it close. I think for students and their safety and people to be able to make those plans, I've really appreciated more these evening calls versus the 5:30. But that's my take on that.
I was just going to say, one of the conversations, Keith, you and I had was about the fact we had presentations about how a larger percentage than I think we like to admit of our students have food insecurity. And so when we are closed, it also impacts our students' ability to have access to warm food on a regular basis. And so I know that also plays into it. Obviously, student safety and transportation needs are a very big deal. But when we are closed, we also have to remember that may mean students aren't getting lunch, potentially lunch and breakfast. And so that's a really important thing, too, to keep in mind as we're making the decisions.
And I'll help Tracy with that next time.
Well, and then I guess my last comment would be too is when you have to do it at night, it seems like Minneapolis and St. Paul are the two that, because they're so gun shy now. And again, they have different street configurations. They got a whole different routing, and so I appreciate you do take some time. That just because the two largest districts say we're closing doesn't mean we have to close either. So, because I just think St. Paul and Minneapolis have a whole different thing to work through than we have in the suburbs.
Yep. And I think my colleagues and I'm included, that we understand they're different. With those narrow streets and snow emergencies, you can't get the bus through, and they're going to know that a lot earlier. And I thank the National Weather Service, because they are phenomenal. We can call them. I can call them 24 hours a day. They do the webinars in the middle of the night, but then they give us that pinpoint forecast in Woodbury, Cottage Grove, and Afton. Any place that I ask, what will it be like? And so the closer it gets, the more exact they are, and they're just really willing to step up and help. So.
We're not taking it over, just so you know. All right, 11.2, school board reports. Student board reports. And we'll start with Hannah tonight.
Hey. So our student council recently, we had this pennies for patients drive, which in the past it's kind of gotten lost, but this year our student council made it a point to make it a very strong, big competitive thing throughout our school, and we actually raised $750, which we more than doubled last year's amount of $300. And so the top 5 advisories, which is how we did it by advisory classroom, they're all having ice cream parties tomorrow, which is very exciting, so it gets kids really excited. And then we have 3 teams going to state this year. We have gymnastics, girls hockey, and wrestling. And it's our first time in the 9 years we've been open for our girls hockey team to ever go to state, which is really, really exciting. We're actually playing tonight at Edina. We played at 6. I don't know how that went, but it's really good. And our cheer team, our varsity, JV, and sideline all went to state and then all went to nationals and they in Orlando, and they all did really, really, really well. We always do very well with cheerleading, and it's really, really impressive. We recently had AP registration, and our school does a really good job of it because they bring it through the counseling office, but then they have all of the teachers that teach AP classes presented to all of the students and explain step by step how to do it. That way they have like maximum possibility, and they explain the possible like financial aid stuff too, which is really cool because they just like make everyone aware of all of the possibilities because it is kind of an expensive test. And then we're selling tickets. We're starting to sell tickets for our senior all-night party on June 2nd, which is always a crowd favorite for our seniors being sent off. And I think it was last week, we did our play in a day where we have people come, or our loft pack come, and they come in the morning and they write the plays and they rehearse them all day long, and then they perform them at 7 p.m. and it's the coolest thing ever because it just like unites that group in our school. Thank you.
Thank you. And our newest member, Maya.
Last week at Woodbury, we celebrated Chinese New Year. Our Chinese club, they do this every year. At lunches, they sell Chinese food and like milk tea in the senior lounge apart from regular lunches. They also host free games and prizes like with the $1 red envelopes. And then during the school day, it was Monday this past week that it happened, students in Chinese club do a dragon dance like in the hallways kind of where like they have like the red paper dragon, like they go around and you can always hear them. I don't know, I think it's cool. And then we're also celebrating Black History Month at Woodbury. We did this last year as well, where at lunch we have different paints and different skin tones, and everyone does a handprint on this poster to show solidarity. And it last year it was a picture of Africa, like so inside the country. And along with that theme, tomorrow night we have our African American Culture Night and African Culture Night from 6 to 8. So there will be food from different countries, a student dance, a fashion show, and a keynote speaker, Dr. Keith Mays. He also spoke to the entire school last year. So we've all seen him before. He's a wonderful speaker. And finally, we are having, there's a group of students organizing a self-defense class that is open to all 3 high schools but hosted at Woodbury. This is as a result of a recent sexual assault campaign that went around with posters at the school. It's hosted by Excel Martial Arts. It's free, and it's March 22nd.
Thank you. All right, 12.0, our future meeting dates. 12.1, March 7th is a regular board meeting, and 12.2, March 28th is a regular board meeting. So 13.0 is closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.03 for labor negotiations. I will entertain a motion to go to closed session.
Second.
That was the date.
I just have a concern about the 28th with 3 board members being gone.
Oh. Okay. All right, we'll chat about that to make sure we'll have quorum. All right, so moved by Sharon and second by Katie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We will not be coming back with any votes or anything, so we'll be going to closed session. Okay. All right, so we just returned from closed session, so I'll entertain a motion to reconvene the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Whoa, wait. Who did that?
I moved.
Okay.
I second.
Heather moved. Sharon seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 14.0 is we are adjourned.
Yay.
Thank you.
I've never watched a school board meeting. I should watch.
I watched